Welcome back to another mid-patch tier list update video for Low-Elo. If you're familiar with our videos, then today is the day that we take a look back over this week's patch so far and see how these champions that got changed this patch have been affected, and how this impacts our Low-Elo tier list. Before we get into the video, don't forget to head to our website and check out both our low and high elo tier list for yourself. We also have loads of other useful advice and info for every single champion, including video guides, counters, matchups, combos, and plenty more, so don't miss out. Well, as you'd expect, we're going to start off with that top lane, and in the God tier we just have the teleporting blue ninja, Shen. Then in the S tier we have Poppy, Garen, Wukong, Sejuani, Mordekaiser, Darius, Olaf, Aatrox, and Singed. Ornn moves down from S to A, Jax moves from A to B, and Vladimir and Warwick both move back up a tier. So Malphite has been feeling a little bit left out this season, and it's nice to see him get some love last week. He got some decent buffs to his passive shielding and a lower cooldown on his W, and it's by no means enough to make him absolutely broken, but it has without a doubt given him a bit more life. Malphite has always been such a fantastic pick into those AD attack speed based top laners, and he will still always struggle against those hard counters like Mordekaiser and Sylas. But this week he has seen a bit of an improvement. Malphite saw about a 1.5% increase in his win rate across most ranks, and this is definitely a step in the right direction. Malphite will almost always be viable anyway, because one good ultimate, GG well played. Jayce was such a popular and dominant pick last season and towards the start of this season too, but he hasn't really been around for a while. Riot gave him some buffs last week to his Q and his E in hammer form, but unfortunately these just haven't really done enough. Jayce is in a difficult spot. I mean, he does scale well and he does deal some huge damage later on, but he's designed to be a bully in lane, but in most lanes he can struggle to actually get through them. Don't get me wrong, if you do get fed on Jayce and you're good enough to play him, then yes, you can carry any game, but the chances of this happening just aren't that high at the moment, especially so at lower ranks. Let's dive into the jungle now, and in the God tier we have Fiddlesticks and Master Yi. In the S tier we have Bel'Veth, Trundle, Amumu, Rammus, Volibear, Rek'Sai, and Kayn. The only other change we have is that Diana moves down from the S to the A tier, finally. So the tanky nightmare that is Diana jungle is still being played in a ton of games, but her win rate did take a fall of around 1.5% this week. Now this is a big deal considering just how crazy Diana has been in the jungle for such a long time now. She's had a consistent 52% plus win rate for as long as we can remember, and now it's around about 51% in the majority of ranks. Now this is not to say that Diana jungle is weak now by any means, but she's definitely nowhere near as turbo broken and abusable. These base damage nerfs made a decent difference to her early clear times and her ability to just build like a full tank and one-shot everyone anyway. The tanky build is still very popular, but now you aren't quite as much of a 1v9 machine just by building loads of health and resistances. If you still want to go down the tanky route, you can opt for more of an engaging playstyle, or you can just go back to that old school AP one-shot assassin that is arguably a lot more enjoyable, but it does offer a lot more counterplay too. Dodge her ultimate and you avoid most of her burst damage. If you are a Diana main, a Diana enjoyer, or have been a Diana abuser, you can still play her in the jungle and have great results, so don't panic, but just don't expect it to be quite as easy as it has been. Poppy has been a really solid pick, especially so in high elo in the jungle for quite a few patches now, and the nerfs to her Q damage to camps was relatively expected. Well, the nerfs did make a bit of a difference and brought her win rate down by around 0.5%. This is a fairly reasonable way to bring down her popularity slightly in the jungle without gutting the champion, and also encourage people to prioritize her back in the top lane again. Poppy has just been such a brilliant answer to so many different matchups like Diana and Zac, and can honestly make their lives miserable if she manages to play it correctly. Poppy still offers a ton of durability, disruption, and some surprising damage too, so if you are enjoying her in the jungle or the top lane, she's still a super solid choice to go for. Udyr's Rework has actually been pretty hit or miss, as most people are first timing him and wobbling around the map like headless chickens, especially with the definitely not Udyr skin. But he does have some pretty obvious strengths and weaknesses. He has an insanely good jungle clear as you expect from this champion, and he can feel absolutely unkillable, especially in the right team comps. If you manage to play Udyr alongside utility champions like Zilean, Lulu, and Janna, you're going to feel a bit unstoppable. Now, he may not have the most damage in the world if you build him like a pure tank, but he stays alive forever, like literally forever. He is the king of long drawn out fights, and you can kite and weave in and out of fights for entire games. The thing is with this champion as well is that you always farm so quickly, and this means you stack up so much experience. And experience leads are such a huge thing in this game, meaning you can just walk around and actually kill people by building full tank because they're always so many levels below you. Udyr's stats and win rates haven't really settled down just yet, and they are still fairly low. But this champion is without a doubt in a better and stronger position this patch. I for one, as a Lee Sin main, have been perma-banning this guy because of how disgusting this matchup is if the Udyr knows what they're doing. However, if they are first timing it, you really shouldn't have too much of a problem. But if he knows his clears, he knows his jungle macro well, and can abuse the map well enough though, he's pretty damn scary to play against. And good luck getting a single dragon off him. Let's move into the mid lane now, and in the God tier we have Swain and Zed. In the S tier we have Anivia, Vex, Victor, Diana, Sylas, and Ahri. Aside from that, we see Zilean go from S to A, Yone, Lux, and Xerath from A to B, and Vel'Koz and Pantheon move up a tier from B to A. Zoe is back. Now, it's been such a long time since we've seen this champion being played consistently, and now we can all remember just how terrifying it is playing against a talented vet Zoe. You're walking through the river, minding your own business, having a cheeky tickle with the scuttle crab, and the next thing you know, you're sent fast asleep and waiting for the inevitable burst combo to send you back to the shopkeeper. Zoe's win rate has jumped up by around 1% in the majority of ranks, so if you do know how to play this crazy champion well enough, now is a great time to revisit her. She just has all of the tools she needs to outplay all sorts of enemies, even in the most unlikeliest of situations. Irelia just hasn't been quite as dominant as we're used to recently, and not quite as strong on those other bruisers and fighter friends in the solo lanes. So she's received some buffs to her base stats this week, and that's all it took for her to see a real improvement. Irelia's win rate has gone up around 1 to 1.5% in top and mid, and she's definitely being played in a lot more games again. Irelia takes some real practice to understand how to play her optimally, but those who can will be even stronger since these changes. Despite what the community has always thought of her, Irelia is by no means an auto-win champion, and there are tons of team comps and champions that can shut her down pretty easily. However, if she does get snowballing and gets fed early game, she is a serious threat, and with these changes, this is going to start to happen a lot more often. Let's move down to those AD carries then, and in the God tier we have the one and only Sivir. In the S tier we have Jhin, Twitch and Seraphine. Lots of AD carries were changed in this patch, so we're starting to see some new faces again, and let's start off with Tristana. Tristana's Q now has more bonus attack speed at each rank, and alongside her gradual improvements over recent patches, this has actually really helped her out. She's been stronger than people realise for a while now, and her dominant all-ins and laning in general is now even better. She has an amazing ability to fight early on in the lane phase, and if you manage to pull this off and start snowballing, you can actually become a bit impossible to lane against. The great thing about Tristana as well is that she takes plates and towers so quickly due to her E, and this kind of adds to her snowballing threat even more. Once you do get those couple of core items on this spicy little Udyr, you're going to deal some pretty huge burst damage. Kraken and Phantom Dancer along your resets, and you're going to pack a serious punch, especially with the burst added from your ultimate. Her win rate has increased by around 1.5% this week at most rank, and in Gold Elo Plus her win rate is actually around 52.5%, which is a seriously impressive number. So if you haven't tried it yet, give her a go. Another AD carry that got some buffs last patch was Kai'Sa, and they did seem a bit average, but they've actually had a lot more impact than we expected. Kai'Sa's on-hit passive damage was increased alongside the AP ratios of her Q and her ultimate, and this has seen her win rate improve by around 1%, which finally brings her above 50% for the first time in a while. Kai'Sa's lane phase is feeling a little bit less weak this patch, and she's still an amazing champion once she's scaled and got those abilities evolved. Now, even though Kai'Sa hasn't been performing the best for a while now, she's still been one of the most popular AD carries in the game, and this is only proving more so since this patch. Every other game seems to have a Kai'Sa in it right now, so whether you're playing it or not, you should definitely make sure you understand what this champion does and what she's capable of. The third AD carry that also got buffed this patch was Caitlyn, and she has made a bit of a return recently. She's had a few minor buffs over recent patches, and now she's really starting to get into a really good place. This combination of buffs have brought her up from around a 48% win rate a few patches ago up to around 51% at most ranks, which is definitely proving that they're slowly but surely brought her back into contention. Caitlyn is just such a good lane bully. She scales incredibly well despite having a pretty bang average mid game, and she just has so much priority over lanes that you can do so much in the bot side when playing alongside her. If you do get fed on Caitlyn, it's just so much fun. Obviously you can just right click enemies from really far away, but then it's those EQ combos and cheeky traps and long range ultimate snipes which are all so much fun to play with. If you do main AD carry and you haven't picked her back up yet, now is the best time to try it. Draven has probably been the best AD carry in the game in High-ELO for quite a few patches, but in Low-ELO he's still been a bit fairly hit and miss. If you can play him well enough and abuse his snowball potential and his early game damage, you can destroy and delete entire teams, but he is very difficult. Even if you stomp the lane phase when you get to team fights, it's still pretty easy to get one-shotted. Well, the Draven nerfs last week looked absolutely pitiful, but they've actually made quite a bit of a bigger difference than everyone thought. His win rate did tank a little bit, and now he's actually got less than a 50% win rate in lower ranks. Now he's still having very good ranks in Diamond Plus, but in Platinum below, he's definitely feeling the effects. We are going to keep him in that A tier for now though, as if you can play him, he's still more than viable. Talking of another champion that's only good in High-ELO, well, it's time to talk about Zeri. And not even in High-ELO really, literally just competitive play in the pro scene. Aside from that, well, this champion is struggling more than any other champion in the entire game, and her win rate right now is around 41 to 42%. Yes, it seriously is that low. Zeri is probably the most impossible champion in the game to balance. Whenever they buff her, she's the best champion in the game, but in recent patches, it's just nerf after nerf after nerf. I really have no idea what they're going to do with this champion because pros will always have the ability to just farm pen skills with her. Now let's finish off with those supports then, and in the God tier we have Janna and Taric. In the S tier we have Sona, Zilean, Renata, Zyra, Soraka, Lulu and Amumu. Yes, Soraka and Amumu make their way to the S tier, and Pyke and Senna move down to the A tier. Nautilus, Swain and Alistair also moved down from A to B. Well, there's only one champion in the support role that got changed last patch, and that was Yuumi. She got nerfed insanely hard when this patch first hit the Rift last week, and then after a mere 24 hours, she instantly got some hotfix buffs. Her win rate went all the way down to around 40% when it first dropped, and then they hotfixed her with some Q AP buffs and her R cooldown early game. And thank the Lord for Yuumi mains that they did, because without this she would have sank into the depth of unplayable champions. Now it's very hard to gauge just whereabouts Yuumi is right now, because her win rate is slowly improving back up from that initial dive bomb, and right now it's around about 47%. We are going to keep her in the B tier for now because there will always be those games where she just feels so OP to play against, especially alongside unkillable champions like Kayn and even the new Udyr. But generally speaking, Yuumi is just not having the best time of her life right now, although most players won't be too sad to see less of her, that's for sure. So that covers all of the updates and changes to champion performances over the last week following on from patch 12.16. We hope you enjoyed the video guys, and let us know in the comments what you think about this patch so far and if you think the game feels like it's in a good place. We are well on the way to Worlds now, and it seems like Riot are pretty happy in general with the state of the game, and only making those real changes to champions completely busted or nowhere to be seen. Thanks again for watching everyone, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.